Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be having a look at Primeape. Now Primeape did get a huge buff with Karate Chop being buffed this season, going from 4 energy to 4.5 per turn. Now, Primeape is actually surprisingly good now. So let's get into the battles. Into the first match, a bit of a tricky lead into Dragonite. We do win the no shields, and we overfarm by 1, but the opponent attaches even when we overfarm onto a Azumarill. I'm answering with Clodsire, as Clodsire is our main Azu counter on this team. I'm going to fire off the Stone Edge pretty much as soon as we get it, and that does some laughable damage. Opponent going to go for their move. Ice Beam is super effective, and I'm going to short it up. I'm going to go straight for the Stone Edge once again, and Stone Edge will do some okay damage, so the opponent is going to short it up. I'm going to let the second Ice Beam through, as it won't do that much damage, as even though it's super effective, it's 2 super bulky Pokemon against each other. Opponent sends in Ferrothorn, and I go for the Earthquake, and then I'm going to switch into Primeape after I bank another Earthquake. Opponent goes for the Power Whip onto my Primeape, and Primeape is so glassy, that does so much damage. And I'm going straight for the Ice Punch, as it would on the CMP tie, but it unfortunately doesn't KO. So Primeape, even against a Steel type, doesn't really get its time to shine. Opponent doesn't want to give us that farm down, so they aggressively send back in Dragonite and go straight for the Dragon Claw. I'm going to short it up, as since Dragonite has so much attack, it will do so much damage. Opponent makes a mistake shielding up the Dark Pulse, so I'm able to snipe with the Stone Edge, and the opponent is sending back in a Azumarill. They get a farm down, but we will survive whatever they throw here. Play rough gets us really low, and we're able to make it to the Aerial Ace. Now, who is able to farm down first? Us or Ferrothorn? We're able to KO in one Snarl, and the opponent does get farmed down. We got a pretty bad lead in the next match. Mandibuzz into Dunsparce. Dunsparce does have that super effective rollout and Rock Slide, so I switch into Clodsire. Opponent still does have that coverage with Jaw Run, because Dunsparce is such a powerful Pokemon in this meta. My main response is Primeape, but unfortunately they are staying in here. This is fine though, as we actually win the Zero Shield. Opponent sends in Goodra, but I'm able to fire off the Earthquake before they farm us down. Earthquake does sizable damage, and I'm letting myself get farmed down. I'm going to send in Mandibuzz now, because Mandibuzz can tank Goodra's energy pretty well. Even a Thunder Punch won't, even though it's super effective, won't do that much damage. I'm going to immediately fire off the Aerial Ace, and I really hope this KOs. Unfortunately, it barely doesn't, so I'm able to snipe with the Primeape, getting an energy advantage. Opponent sends in Venusaur, and look at those Vine Whips, that's doing too much damage. I'm going to go for the Ice Punch, and Ice Punch does so much damage. Ice Punch is a terrible move, yet it still does so much damage from the glassy Primeape. We will have to short up the Frenzy Plant, and I'm going to overfarm and throw just before they make it to the move. Ice Punch will be grabbing a shield, and the opponent actually doesn't throw their energy. We're able to make it to the next Ice Punch, and let's see. The opponent is double shielding, so I send back in Mandibuzz. Opponent sends in the Dunsparce, and I'm going straight for the Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse does almost knock them out, and I'm gonna shield the Rock Slide up as I would KO. Opponent is gonna bring back in Venusaur, and I thought they would have had the move by now, but I'm not sure. As Aerial Ace takes the KO. GG's to that opponent there. Absolute nightmare lead in the next match into Bastiodon. I say switch in Clodsire, which is swiftly answered with a Superior. Superior can continuously debuff us with Leaf Tornado, but it's fine as they go for the Frenzy Plant. But that did a lot of damage, and it was also charged up very fast. I'm going to go for the Stone Edge, and that goes shielded. I'm going to call the opponent just goes for the Leaf Tornado, and they do. Unfortunately for the opponent, no debuff, but that's really good for us, as I'm able to fire off the next Stone Edge and pressure shields, but the opponent decides not to shield, but we're able to go straight for the next Stone Edge. I need to fight for switch advantage, as Primeape does really, really well into Bastiodon, but Mandibuzz does terribly. Even with the debuff, we'll still be able to get the farm done before them, so I'm going to double shield. I know this seems like a pretty dumb move and maybe not a very smart play, but it's fine, as this is actually our game-winning play. Earthquake, double debuff does absolutely nothing, and now I'm going to bring in Mandibuzz. Opponent attempts for a catch, but they're unable to get it, and I send in Primeape. Winning switch advantage was everything in this match, as Mandibuzz against a Future Sight Cresselia, which was probably what it was, is an amazing matchup, as we wall them and deal super effective. And this obviously is an amazing matchup. Opponent sends back in Cresselia, I throw one Karate Chop and the move, and Ice Punch will actually do some okay damage. Not that much. Even coming from the glassy Primeape, it does absolutely nothing onto the insanely bulky Cresselia. Opponent has nothing they can do, assuming they're on Future Sight, so they concede the match. GG's. Into the next match, up against a Legend player. That's daunting. There's a little bit of weak connection, and I unfortunately throw a Snarl before switching. That's fine. I say switch into Clodsire, and luckily for me, opponent is going to stay in here, as we really need this damage onto Dunsparce. Unfortunately, the opponent shields, and this game is going pretty wrong. Opponent firing off another Duron, and it looks like they're going to switch out. Poliwrath. Poliwrath is a problem Pokemon for this team. If it has any sort of shield advantage, which the good thing it doesn't, it's hard to take care of. I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace, and the opponent actually lets that through, which surprises me. And I'm still surprised they're still using Poliwrath, even after the counter nerf, as Poliwrath isn't very good. And we're able to get a giant Snarl farm down, which is really fortunate. Opponent sends back in the Dunsparce, and it looks like we'll be able to make it to 2 Dark Pulses before they make it to the move. That's fine, as I'm able to catch onto the Clodsire, but I realize Rock Slide doesn't KO Clodsire. Clodsire is too bulky. Opponent gets a farm down, but it's smaller than the amount of energy they got from the Rock Slide, so it's overall good for us. Opponent gonna fire off their move, and that's completely fine with me. I'm gonna let it through and send in Primeape. Primeape is prime for a farm down here. I'm gonna shoot up the Duron, as it would do absolutely massive damage, and I'm gonna let the next one through, as there's probably something worth shooting more in the back, and there is. It's superior. I'm gonna farm up and fire off the Ice Punch. Close combat does do more raw damage, but I don't want to risk it. I'm going straight for the second Ice Punch, and unfortunately it doesn't KO, but we get the farm down anyway, and we get the farm down. 2 Karate Chops comes before the second rollout, so we can take that game. Into the next match, we've got a little bit of a tricky Pokemon to deal with, as it can make all of the matchups in the team pretty close. I'm purposely slightly undercharged the Aerial Ace, just so I could get a farm down on something else, but the opponent ends up shooting anyway. Opponent goes for the Fly, which doesn't KO, and they realize that they should have thrown the Brave Bird and go for another Fly. I'm going to send in the Clodsire, and from here, I think I might just go for a full farm down. If the opponent goes for the Brave Bird, it'll make it a lot easier, so I'm expecting they will. Brave Bird does get shielded, which is very fortunate, and we're able to get a gigantic farm down, leaving with over an Earthquake. Opponent sends in Clodsire, and I'm going to immediately fire off the Earthquake. We will outpace to the next one, which is really good. And now, let's see if the opponent wants to shoot. I'm guessing they will, which they do. And now I can just shield up one and switch into the Primeape. Actually, I let it through and it ends up being the Sludge Bomb bait. Wow, I can't believe the opponent did that. I thought for a second we could survive an Earthquake there, but that's fine, we don't. And have a look at this. Clodsire, so bulky, survived that Rock Slide earlier, but look what they don't survive. An Ice Punch. That really should not have KO'd. And it's Chestnut in the back, and this is just a 1 game. I can just farm up a bunch of energy. Opponent just immediately firing off the Frenzy Plant. I can farm up so much energy and go for the Close Combat. Close Combat will easily carry from this range. Just wanted to play it a bit safer. GG's to the opponent. Into the next match, a great lead into Venusaur. Opponent is going to switch out into Drapion. That is a bit of a problem. I'm gonna safe switch into Clodsire, and I wasn't sure about answering with Primeape, as we would probably need to commit shields, but I think I might actually would have rather to switch into the Primeape. I'm going to overfarm quite a bit and go for the Earthquake. Earthquake will, I think, barely KO from this range, but they are non-shadow, so I'm not 100% sure. I don't really know the non-shadow's bulk. Opponent going to fire off another Crunch, and it looks like they might be on the double Nuke, Crunch, Sludge Bomb moveset. I'm going to go for the Earthquake, and the opponent actually decides to double shield, and we get the rare double CMP tie. That's actually pretty cool. That's only happened to me 3 or 4 times. I'm going to overfarm by 1 so I can throw in the CMP tie, and close combat from this range will definitely KO. And I'm going to immediately be switching into Mandibuzz. I throw 1 in the move, but the opponent reacted just in time to switch into Dugong, but surprisingly, this is actually looking like a pretty good game. Even though we've got a fighting type onto a poison type, and a flying type onto an ice type, I think we can still win this game. I'm not going to shield my Mandibuzz, as we need to save shields for Primeape. I'm going to go for another Dark Pulse just to get Dugong low, and I'm purposely not going to throw now. There's no reason in throwing, as it would just leave less farm for Primeape. Opponent gets worried and fires off their move, and that's a mistake from the opponent. Now they can't debuff my Primeape, and we get a big farm down. So now, against the Venusaur, 2 Ice Punches KOs, so this is just a 1 game. The opponent cannot make it to 3 Frenzy Plants, so they decide to concede the match. Into the next match, we see... Okay, this Pokemon is outdated. Altaria. After the Sky Attack nerf, its pacing is absolutely horrible. It just takes so long to get to the move. I'm going to switch into Clodsire, as Altaria could possibly have Moonblast to threaten our Mandibuzz. Opponent answers my Clodsire safe switch with Tentacle, and this is actually a decent matchup for us. I'm going to fire off the Earthquake, and that does get the shield. I'm just going to let it through. If it's a bait, great. If it's a Scald, that's fine, as the opponent has absolutely no fast move pressure. I'm going to fire off the Earthquake and aggressively switch into Mandibuzz, as we can easily snipe with the Aerial Ace. The opponent does let that through, which is quite nice, and let's see what the opponent wants to bring in. Opponent brings back in the Altaria, and I'm going to fire off the Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse almost KOs them, and opponent's going to fire off the move. This is only the Sky Attack, if I was correct. Yep, and the opponent has Talonflame in the back. It's quite nice that we do get off this Aerial Ace, as it does some okay damage. And I'm going to bring in Primeape. Now this is going to be a tricky game. I attempt to catch, but the opponent was probably watching for that. So this is just pretty much a lost game at this point. I'm going to fight back as best as I can. I shoot up the fly, and I'm going to throw 2 Karate Chops in the move for proper timing. And Ice Punch does grab a shield. Now we're able to make it to the next Ice Punch, which is really nice. But maybe I should have thrown the Close Combat, because Close Combat would have KO'd from this range. But I think they've got the back-to-back flies. So anyway, we actually lose that game, which is quite unfortunate. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.